My loving audience take my love and subscribes my channel. Is this actually happening right now? I mean, we have all seen some pretty wild stuff on Beyond the Gates, but Bill and Hayley testing a pacemaker in a hospital bed? That really takes the cake. I want you to think about this for a second. Bill Hamilton just had his heart stopped 3 times, once when he collapsed in his hallway and twice more right there on the operating table. He literally just had a machine wired into his chest to keep him from dropping dead again. And what is his first thought? He starts flirting with disaster. I have to ask you guys right now, is Bill just incredibly stubborn, or is he actually being lured into a trap by a woman who is basically a professional widow in training? It is just mind-blowing. Well, let's look at what is going on in that hospital room. Bill is lying there and he tells Hayley how much he wants to get back to his own bed. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a regular guy who is just tired of hospital food and scratchy sheets. But if you really think about it, his own bed is the most dangerous place in Fairmont Crest. Why? Because that is exactly where the poisoning has been happening. It is the scene of the crime. By wanting to go home so badly, Bill is basically asking to be put back on the menu. And the funniest thing is that he says he is bored already. Can you imagine being bored after literally coming back from the dead? That is just classic Bill. His ego is so big it probably has its own zip code. He doesn't want to be a patient. He wants to be the king of the castle again, but he has no idea that his queen is currently trying to checkmate him into a casket. Now, we have to talk about that cuddle. Have you guys seen the comments on Facebook lately? Fans are absolutely losing their minds. They are pointing out how Hayley is lying her head right on his fresh surgical incision. I mean, come on. At least try to make it look a little bit real, right? It is like the writers think we have never seen a surgery before. Or, and hear me out on this one, maybe there is something deeper going on. My theory is that Hayley is doing this on purpose. Think about the psychology of that move. She is literally pressing her weight down on the wound she caused. It is a total power move. She is marking her territory while looking like the devoted wife for anyone who might walk in. It is exactly the kind of performance she bragged to Randy about. She told him she deserved a standing O for her act at the hospital, and honestly, she's not wrong. She is playing everyone. But then, the door swings open and in walks the one person who isn't buying the act, Nurse Shanice Johnson. If you don't know Shanice, you need to get familiar. She isn't just a regular nurse, she is the supervising nurse and a physical therapist at Garland Memorial. She has seen it all. She has seen the circus of the Duprees and the Hamiltons fighting in the hallways. So when she walks in and sees Hayley all over Bill, she doesn't hold back. She orders Hayley back on her feet immediately. And then she drops the line of the century. She tells them that sex with her husband could be a fast track to widowhood. Think about that phrase for a second, a fast track to widowhood. That is a terrifying medical warning, but for someone like Hayley Lawson, that sounds more like a set of instructions. We know Hayley was frustrated that Bill didn't die when he collapsed. She literally told Randy she could still be a widow by morning. So when a medical professional tells her exactly how to finish the job without using a single drop of toxin, you know her gears are turning. She doesn't have to worry about detectable poison anymore if she can just love him to death. It is dark, it is twisted, and it is exactly what makes this show so addictive. Do you think Hayley is actually going to try and use this information? Or is she too scared of getting caught now that everyone is watching her? And then we have Bill. Bill is lying there, and he basically tells Shanice that he is not going to be celibate just to save his own life. This tells us everything we need to know about his mindset right now. He is in total denial. He is choosing a moment of passion over the rest of his life. It's a classic case of a man whose pride is getting in the way of his survival. He feels weak with that pacemaker. He feels like less of a man because he's hooked up to machines. So, he wants to prove he's still got it. But he's playing a deadly game of chicken with his own heart. The emotional weight of this is even crazier when you remember what Bill did right before this. He asked to see his ex-wife, Danny, first. He wanted to clear his conscience just in case he didn't make it. He apologized for the cheating and the hurt. That was a real, raw moment. But then Hayley stomps in, egged on by Leslie, and ruins the whole thing. So now, Bill is trying to make it up to Hayley. He is trying to show her she is the one he wants. But he is doing it by putting his life on the line. It is like he is trying to buy her loyalty with his own health. It is heartbreaking to watch, especially when we know she is the one who put him in that bed in the first place by giving him double and triple doses of that poison. And what about the rest of the family? We've got Naomi Hamilton Hawthorne sitting on the sidelines, and people are starting to call her out. She is a lawyer. She's smart. And spoilers are suggesting she might have known more than she was letting on. If she knew Hayley was lying and didn't say anything while her father was having multiple cardiac arrests, that is a huge betrayal. It makes you wonder, who can Bill actually trust? His daughters are trying to protect him, but even they are keeping secrets. Naomi is worried Hayley will find a way to blame them for the whole thing. It is a complete mess. Let's talk about the medical side of this for a minute. Nurse Shanice is being the ultimate pro here. She is the queen of meds, as Leslie calls her. She knows that a heart ablation and a pacemaker installation are no joke. The body needs time to heal. But Bill is acting like he just had a tooth pulled. He is ready to go home and get back to business. This is where the real conflict is going to happen. Spoilers for Tuesday, August 18th, say that Bill flirts with disaster. That has to be about him pushing his physical limits. Is he going to try and leave the hospital early? Is he going to ignore Shanice's warnings the second he gets through the front door? And then there is the request she never saw coming that Shanice is going to receive. What could that be? Well, if Bill is determined to get back to his normal life, maybe he asks Shanice to lie for him. Maybe he wants her to tell his daughters that he is doing better than he actually is so they will let him go home. Or maybe, and this would be a huge twist, maybe the request comes from Hayley. Maybe she asks for more private time with her husband. Whatever it is, you know Shanice is going to be caught in the middle of this Hamilton Lawson disaster. The funny thing about all of this is how much it has united the rest of the town. You've got the Duprees and the Hamiltons acting like a regular circus at the hospital. Danny is running around calling Bill her husband even though she is married to Andre. That was a massive slip-up, and you know it's going to cause problems later. Andre is already getting suspicious. Can you imagine surviving a heart attack only to wake up in the middle of a war between your current wife and your ex-wife? Bill's heart is going to need more than a pacemaker to survive that kind of stress. I also want to touch on the fans' reaction to the realism of these hospital scenes again. People on social media are genuinely annoyed. They are saying the writers think the audience is dumb because of how Hayley is acting around a surgical site. And honestly, I get it. We want to be immersed in the story. But maybe the lack of realism is the point. Maybe it's supposed to show us how reckless Hayley is being. She doesn't care about the medical reality, she only cares about the optics. She wants to look like she's the closest person to Bill so she can stay in control of his care. If she can keep the family away, she can keep the secrets hidden. Why was Naomi keeping the truth from Bill? Have you ever sat there watching a show and just wanted to reach through the screen and shake a character? I'm talking about that moment where you realize a character has all the answers but just stays silent while everything falls apart around them. Right now, everyone is talking about Naomi Hamilton Hawthorne and this massive secret she's been carrying. It is honestly hard to wrap your head around. We are watching her father, Bill Hamilton, literally fight for his life after his heart stopped 3 times. And the whole time, Naomi was sitting on information that could have changed everything. It makes you wonder, was this a simple legal strategy, or was it something way more dangerous? So, let's look at the facts. Bill is stable now, but he's got a pacemaker keeping him alive because of Hayley Lawson's ongoing poisoning. But here's the kicker, Naomi knew about Hayley's lies for months and never said a single word. She's a high-powered lawyer, so she knows exactly how evidence works. But in this case, her professional brain might have totally shut down her human heart. The thing is, Naomi wasn't just being quiet, she was calculating. She was stressing to her sisters that they needed concrete proof before they could actually make a move against Hayley. But while she was waiting for that perfect paper trail, her father was literally dying. It's like she was preparing for a trial while the victim was already in the morgue. Why would she act this way? Well, think about it from her perspective as a Hawthorne. Naomi lives in a world where your reputation and your ability to prove your point are everything. She wasn't just looking for the truth, she was looking for a win. Analysis of her behavior suggests she was trapped in what we can call legal paralysis. She was so afraid of making a mistake that she let the biggest mistake of all happen right under her nose. It is a classic case of being so smart you become functionally useless in a real crisis. If you're a lawyer, you don't make accusations without a smoking gun. But when the smoking gun is a vial of toxin in your stepmother's hand, do you really have time to wait for a court date? Internally, Naomi had to be feeling a massive amount of pressure. Can you imagine the weight of that? She was fretting that if she spoke up too soon, Hayley would find a way to flip the script and blame the daughters for Bill's condition. That tells us so much about her hidden emotions. She didn't just fear for Bill, she feared Hayley's power. She was scared that a failed accusation would turn her father against his own children forever. It is a terrifying thought. She felt that she only had one shot to take Hayley down, and she was so scared of missing that she never even pulled the trigger. She was essentially a hostage to her own perfectionism. We really need to reframe this whole situation. People are calling it negligence, and honestly, it's hard to disagree. We often think of negligence as a mistake, but for Naomi, it was a choice. She chose the law over her father's health. I interpret this as a daughter who viewed her father more like a high-stakes client than a parent. If he was just a client, you'd wait for the evidence to be airtight. But he's her dad. I completely disagree with her decision to stay silent. In my opinion, the second you suspect your parent is being poisoned, you don't go looking for concrete proof in a file cabinet, you go to the hospital and demand a toxicology screen. You can worry about the legal fallout later. Psychologically, this is a huge study in ego and control. Naomi is a woman who defines herself by being the smartest person in the room. For her to be wrong or to make an accusation that didn't stick would be a total blow to her identity. She couldn't handle the idea of being seen as the bitter daughter if Hayley managed to talk her way out of it. So, she kept the secret to maintain control over the narrative. But the funny thing is, by trying to control everything, she lost control of the one thing that mattered, Bill's safety. Her need for an undeniable gotcha moment became a weapon that Hayley used to keep poisoning Bill for months. When Bill finally collapsed, the hospital turned into a total circus. Naomi was right there in the middle of it, huddled with Kat and Chelsea. And even then, with Bill having a heart ablation and getting a pacemaker, she was still playing the role of the gatekeeper. She was seen blaming herself for not taking better care of his health. Is that guilt real, or is it just her lawyer brain realizing she's liable for what happened? It is hard to tell with Naomi. She even prevented Kat from questioning Leslie in the hospital lobby. Even in the middle of a medical emergency, she was still trying to manage the evidence. It's like she can't turn that part of her brain off. This is where things get really tense. Bill is awake now, and he's already bored and wanting to go home. He's even giving Naomi the security code to his front door so she can get his books. Think about the irony there. He is handing the keys to his house to the daughter who let him get poisoned for months. He has no idea that the concrete proof Naomi was looking for was actually his own life on the line. If Naomi goes into that house and sees Hayley continuing her act, what is she going to do? Is she going to keep waiting for more proof, or is the sight of that pacemaker finally going to be enough to make her speak up? The conflict is only going to escalate from here. Spoilers for August 18th say that Bill is going to flirt with disaster. That sounds like he's going to push himself way too hard, way too fast. And if he does that while Naomi is still keeping her secret, the consequences could be permanent. Naomi is basically an accomplice at this point. By not telling Bill what she knew, she deprived him of the chance to protect himself. She let him stay in a house with a woman who smirked that she could be a widow by morning. That is a level of betrayal that is hard to move past. I predict that when the truth finally comes out, and it always does in Fairmont Crest, Naomi is going to be the one on trial. Not in a courtroom, but in her own family. Kat and Chelsea have been out there playing detective, trying to find out what is going on with Hayley. When they realize their sister, the lawyer, already had the answers and just sat on them, the Hamilton family is going to explode. I think we are looking at a permanent rift between the sisters. Naomi might have been trying to win a case, but she's going to lose her sisters in the process. And what about Bill? If he finds out his favorite daughter watched him die and said nothing, he might never look at her the same way again. Let's be real for a second. If you were in Naomi's shoes, what would you have done? Would you have waited until you had the concrete proof to make sure the charges stuck, or would you have risked looking like a crazy daughter to save your dad's life? It is a tough spot, but most of us would like to think we'd speak up. The fact that Naomi didn't says so much about the toxic nature of power and perfectionism in the Hamilton family. She was more worried about the performance Hayley was giving than the reality of the medicine. It is a tragic situation all around. So, here's where I think this is going. Bill is going to get his wish and go home. He is going to give Naomi those security codes for the front door, but Hayley is going to be the one who really holds the keys. Once they are behind those gates at their house, the real test begins. Bill thinks he is testing his heart, but he is actually testing his luck. Every time he flirts with Hayley or tries to push himself physically, he is giving her an opening. If he has another collapse at home, do you think Hayley is going to call 911 as fast as Caroline did? Caroline is the one who did the CPR and saved him. Hayley was in a limo at the airport, probably dreaming of the tropics while her husband was dying. That tells you everything you need to know about her priorities. I have some big questions for you guys to think about. First, do you think Bill is actually in love with Hayley, or is he just addicted to the drama? He has been through so much with Danny and the Duprees. Maybe he thinks this is what a normal marriage looks like. Second, what do you think that request to Shanice is going to be? Do you think she is going to stay professional, or is she going to get sucked into the Hamilton family drama like everyone else? And finally, do you think Naomi is going to come clean about what she knew? If she stays silent while Bill goes home with his poisoner, is she just as guilty as Hayley? This whole situation is a ticking time bomb. You've got a man with a mechanical heart, a wife with a bottle of poison, and a nurse who is the only thing standing between them. It is high-stakes drama at its best. If you want to stay updated on whether Bill actually survives his test of the pacemaker, you have to stay tuned. The halls of Garland Memorial are never quiet for long, and Fairmont Crest is about to reach a breaking point. I want to hear your theories. Do you think Hayley is going to get away with being a widow by morning? Or is the fast track going to lead her straight to a prison cell? Drop a comment below and let's get a debate going. This storyline is way too juicy to ignore. And hey, if you love these deep dives and want more commentary on the madness of Beyond the Gates, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We are covering every single twist and turn of the Hamilton poisoning saga, and you don't want to miss what happens next. Thanks for hanging out with me and diving into the drama. I'll see you in the next one where we find out if Bill's heart can actually handle the truth.